us to be able to access the catalog in such a smooth way, we need really good catalogers that understand the classification codes of what it was called back in the day, probably before you were born, the Dewey Decimal System. Right now, it's through the Library of Congress Classification Manual, and those librarians and the head of cataloging department are extremely aware and also very professionally trained to make sure that the metadata, as we call it, that is inside the catalog of the library is actually accessible, but also easy, that can easy talk to all the systems. So all of us, when we just put a keyword down there, in the catalog, it's easy for us to access that book or article. We also have, as I said, the copyright librarian. We have our newest and greatest and most innovative team, which is the Library Research and Data Services. Definitely a lot of their work is focused on data services, data visualization, AI, ChatGPT, and tons and tons of workshops that has been approved and also given to the university faculty professors. We also work with community members, which is something that I hold very dear to my heart because it's something that I started like almost 15 years ago. So we collaborate with different communities, we collaborate with authors, faculty on bringing other groups to campus, whether just giving a tour to people that are interested in our spaces. Because if you've noticed, Kate, our space, I'm very proud of the amount of art that we have in the library. It does feel like a museum, and it's something that I've written about, and I know lots of other faculty members are always like, our spaces are prime spaces, and we have two gallery walls that we host at least two or three exhibitions a year, and these exhibitions are in line with the curriculum. So that's why I was talking about the autism exhibition, in line with the research that is happening on campus. We have upcoming exhibits. We have a street photography exhibit. We're working with the Wilkinson faculty on it. We also, like today, this afternoon, we have a photography exhibit with one of our alums. So from alums to current students, that we provide space for them to actually put their art, to faculty members, to community members. We collaborate with the Sikh American community. We also have all our rooms, if you've seen in the library, we call them story rooms. And those are things that we're very proud of. What we call like invisible way of learning, where students can go in and book a room to study in that room or do a group project. But as they watch what's on the walls, they would see, for example, a story of a prominent faculty member or a prominent alumna, such as Donna Tella, for example, class of 61. She has the biggest collection of angels in the world. So there's a sampling of those angels in one of the rooms. Our latest and greatest room was named after Congresswoman Loretta Sanchez, who is also an alumna of the university. It's a beautiful room that tells the story of the alumna, of her as the first ever Hispanic woman serving in the Congress and having one of the longest careers in the Congress. We have her archives. I also don't want to forget our archivist, as well as our special collections and archives team that also houses he'll house our archives, California Archive, as well as War Letters Archives. I don't think anyone can survive in the future without archives, because if we don't know our history, we won't be able to look at what's going to happen tomorrow. And again, despite of the misconceptions, our archive and archivists haven't been as busier than before. Have been really, this is the busiest they have ever been, because as you can see in all the new platform, like Google, for example, has a new what they call it, a cultural and I can't remember the exact name, but they have a cultural hub where they're telling, it's an open source space for people to create exhibitions in a digital format. But as you can imagine, exhibitions, they need the photos, and they need all those archives from libraries from across the world. And because all of the archives share a common archive online platform called the Online Archive of California, And so everything is deposited there so people are aware of the collections that we have. Right now, for example, a beautiful thing that just happened recently is the Special Collections and Archives team led by archivist Annie Tang. There is an exhibition of some of our materials, of some of our Hillhauser materials at the John Wayne Airport. They have an art program. So that was also a collaboration. So you'd see the librarians really everywhere, and we're always, as I said, because we have that autonomy to really imagine without the boundaries of specific jobs. We're always reinventing ourselves in many many ways.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, what would you say is the biggest misconception people have of librarians? But I feel like you touched on it, unless you want to add
Right.
anything else.
I think that, yeah, the biggest misconception is that there's a specific job that you do. I mean, there are core key work activities. I would like to talk about them, which is reference, collection management, and then our help with research to the students, which is our what we call the individual research consultation and bibliographic instruction. So those are key work activities, and they will continue to be at the heart of what any librarian does across the world. But then, because of what's happening around the world, and because of what Chapman and the innovation that we have here in the libraries and at the university level, we have that autonomy that I talked about. But the misconception is, yeah, just this typical stereotypes that some librarians are very quiet, or they're sitting in their desk on their desk, reading books. I mean, a lot of us love reading, but that's not necessarily the case. There are so many things. It's a profession where you can continue to invent and reinvent yourself almost on a daily basis. And sometimes you come into the office, you don't, even though you're scheduled for meetings and specific jobs that you're gonna do, there are things that happen because of how fast this campus moves, and how fast also and agile we like to be responsive. Um, and it's changing because of the amount of data, the amount of technology, and I think the misconception that we're facing now, and it's starting to whittle down a little bit, is that, oh, we will no longer need libraries. And libraries, and the way we all respond to this question is, libraries have existed thousands of years ago. I mean, you and I were chatting just a few minutes ago. I used to work for the Bibliotheca Alexandrina, which is the Library of Alexandria. It's the oldest library in the world that was just rebuilt in 2001. And I had the honor of working in this library for about 5 years. And the original library from the Greek times was like thousands and thousands of years ago. And here we are, all of us here in 2024 are still existing, and I don't think we will ever not exist, because this is a society, and as we're seeing this, education is the most powerful tool anyone can have. And to have a good university, you have to have a good library. And to have a good society, you have to have a good library system. And we're very blessed in the United States that we have one of the strongest library system in the world, one of the strongest library associations in the world, the American Library Association. And people are looking up to the American libraries and the American librarians to take the lead, and to learn. The world look at us to learn the latest trends and the latest things that could be done.
So, how, if you could tell the Chapman community anything, how would you like them to celebrate National Library Week next week? And is Chapman Libraries doing anything specific for it?
Let me answer your first question about, like, what would I like for people to do? In all honesty, as librarians and library administration, the more people are using the library, the happier we are. You wouldn't see anyone more asking for, like it's a very simple reward for us when we see the library full of students studying in different spaces. That is also a service that we provide. When they come to the reference desk and ask us question, as simple as, where is this book, or can you help me find an article, to very sophisticated, deep questions that will require an individual research consultation. So the more they reach out to us, the more they know what we call their liaison librarians, which is the embedded librarians in the different schools and colleges, depending on their backgrounds. For example, because of my master's in business administration, I'm embedded in the business school. My colleagues have different backgrounds in performing arts